The Arthas model from Warcraft 3 was very basic. I think that was about 5 years ago. So we opened it up and took a look at it and realized that technology's improved quite a bit over time. To visualize what the new Arthas would look like, we went through a concepting phase. We would draw on top of the old version, bringing out more detail in areas that needed it. For instance, the skulls on his armor, we added a ton of new detail to it. And we added layers to his armor, layers of leather and different layers of plate that weren't there previously, all the while trying to maintain that general Arthas vibe that's always been there. One of the more difficult things to do in CG is to create realistic-looking hair that moves realistically and renders realistically. We have a department specifically made for simulating hair and cloth. Generally what they'll do is they'll make a small patch of hair that represents what we're aiming for and make that work properly. And then they'll apply that to the larger model and make sure that it flows in the wind properly, renders properly. Eventually they'll put that hair into the shot and simulate it using computer calculations rather than hand animation to make it flow through the wind properly. Not only does our modeling department handle all the models, they also handle all the surfacing that occurs on the model, how light interacts with the surface, whether it's reflective, whether it's matte, whether it has a speck hit on it, or various parameters that make the character look as it does. For instance, on skin, there's a parameter called subsurface, which is basically the calculation of light bouncing through the surface rather than bouncing off of it. Another challenge with Arthas and his sword Frostmourne is the metallic nature of it. It's always a fine balance there to get it reflective enough but not overly reflective. If it's overly reflective, it will seem too CG, and if it's not reflective enough, then it ends up looking dull and stone-like.
On this project, we had 2 animators full-time. It allowed each animator to stay consistent with the character and really explore what each character is thinking. We didn't use any motion capture for the characters in this project. Everything was hand animated. As for animating Arthas, we just found as we went along and explored different ideas with him, it was best if we kept his movements very, very simple and subtle and deliberate. It really helped sell that he was a character with a lot of intent and focus. To sell the Frostworm's scale and size in the cinematic, we really tried to slow her movements down a lot and keep them linear. We don't really have anything to reference from in the real world, so we looked at a lot of birds and dinosaur movies and things from real life like Komodo dragons and studied the way they walk.
For this cinematic, we do use a lot of matte paintings, but background stuff. The reason for that is basically due to the limited time and human resource we have and the scale and the complexity of the whole 3D set. Practically, it's almost impossible to really build the whole set to the level of details we require here. Instead, what we do is we build a rough 3D set. We call it proxy environment models. And then we do 3D projections. It's based on the force perspective, optical illusion that human eyes have. The limitation for that is it only works from a specific camera angle. The way we are doing things here in terms of putting a shot together could be roughly break down to 3 big groups. One is the character, all the layers related with the character. That's one group. And then there will be environment, any matte paintings or 3D set pieces, and also the effects group, which include anything effects related, obviously, hairs, furs, breath, smokes, anything you can think of, particle effects, snows. Well, each of those groups usually contains many different layers. For example, the character group includes the different layers to allow us to have total control over the look of the character.
My son, the day you were born, the very forests of Lordaeron whispered the name. Arthas. Child, I watched with pride as you grew into a weapon of righteousness. Remember, our line has always ruled with wisdom and strength. And I know you will show restraint when exercising your great power. Truest victory, my son, is stirring the hearts of your people. I tell you this, for when my days have come to an end, you shall be king.